Hey, what's going on? All right, everybody. We are back, and it is and first of all, I want to say thank you so much for filling out that survey. I will look at the data very carefully to see how we can do things better. And also for those of you that left a testimonial, I truly appreciate that. That stuff really helps us. We're really trying to build something special here. And in case you want to know, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I'm literally leaving like a big chunk of my wealth to the Black Business School. About 75% of it is going to go toward the board so that we can actually have an endowment and that capital base that we talked about. Because I know that after I'm gone, the school's going to need financial support. And so that's how important it is to me. Because, my thought is always, look, if white guys can create universities, why can't we? And we went to, my wife and I went to visit Harvard, where we went to go see D1, who's a buddy of mine. D1 was actually on the Breakfast Club the other day. I got to listen to his interview today while I'm driving. And while we were there, we were walking around this beautiful campus, and I like to study how institutions are built. So I studied Harvard and the history of Harvard and where did Harvard come from and how did they succeed. And in the conclusion I came to is that if you compare where Harvard was, in its fourth or fifth year versus where we are, we're actually far ahead of Harvard. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but Harvard was actually the John Harvard is not the founder of Harvard. There's a statue of a guy named John Harvard on the Harvard campus. John Harvard was not the founder of Harvard. Actually, Harvard was founded by some other people, and John Harvard gave them like a building or something and some books. Like not much. He gave them like a little bit because they were struggling. They were just kind of this little tiny little institution. And next thing you know, they were like, well, we're so appreciative that we're going to name our whole school after you. So literally, they named the whole university after this guy because he made a tiny donation, which would be nothing in today's terms, based on what Harvard has become. So that showed me, or that reminded me that you know what, big things start off small, and or even other little things. Like I was looking the other day, I've got to put it on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr Boyce Finance. I put or I'm going to put a video where I saw they showed the first car created by Mercedes Benz, or I don't know if his name was Mercedes Benz, or maybe it was John Mercedes, or I don't know. It was the guy that created Mercedes Benz. I don't know what his actual name was. I gotta Google it. Anyway, so this car was like this raggedy little ugly little tricycle that looked like a freaking death trap. Like the first Mercedes was something that you think like your 4-year-old daughter could build, in the garage. Like it was like this crazy little contraption that had technically had a motor that probably lasted for about 30 seconds, and he steered it with this little thing. It was an ugly little car. So here's what I want you to understand, right? When you talk about economic vision, long term, sort of seeing things, and then not just seeing long term, but knowing that most of what will exist long term are things that you cannot see, that you will not see. I know for a fact there is no way that this guy who created the first Mercedes could have visualized what Mercedes is now, right? There's no way. I mean, look at Mercedes. You see a nice, beautiful Benz. I mean, it's exciting, right? You see the drop top Benz that's got all these little gadgets and everything, right? There's no way you could imagine going from that raggedy little contraption that looked like a tricycle with a motor. It didn't even have, it wasn't like a car that had a cover or anything. You sat on, I gotta find a picture because I need y'all to just see this because I want y'all to just really see the vision or what God may have in store for you and your family that you can't even see. Let me see here. The first Mercedes car. Let me see if I can find it. All right, let me see if I can find the little rack. Let's see. What was it? Carl Benz. Yeah, it was let's see. The brand's original lie in Daimler Motoren Gesellschaft. 1901 Mercedes, and Carl Benz's 1886 Benz patent motor wagon. He called it a motor wagon. Let me see if I can find a picture of this ugly ass motor wagon. It's hilariously, ridiculously like a terribly ugly design. Here, let me show you. I mean, I'm sure it was revolutionary at the time, but you look at it now, it's like a joke. It's an absolute joke. So check this out. Look at that. Look at that. Look at this thing. Who would want to drive one of these things to work? Like, look at that. It's you can't take a girl on a date with this. You can't do nothing with this thing. This is ugly. This is so ugly. But it was beautiful, I'm sure, back then. But it really looks like a bike. And I think that what they were doing was they were taking the design of the bicycle, which was also kind of a new thing at that time, and said, okay, what if we just put a motor on this thing? I think that's what the logic was. And this is how you steer this little thing right here. And it's like a little handle that you pull. And there's, I mean, it looks very dangerous, right? So if you think about that, right, and you compare that to what you see right now, right? Like if I was to Google 2024 Mercedes Benz, I'm gonna put the word luxury in here so I can just really see what Benz really has for us now in 2024. Let me see if I can find something. Um, you know what? I want the sporty ones. Let me see if I like the sport coupes. Me and my wife are gonna get a Benz, like an electric Benz or something. All right, here we go. Here's one. Let's look at the Mercedes now, right? Just a couple of generations later, 3 generations later, right? This is what Benz has become. They went from that raggedy little broken tricycle looking monstrosity to some of the most beautiful cars in the world, right? I mean, literally, they're known throughout the world for how amazing and how luxurious their vehicles are, right? And Mercedes are known for being top quality, you know. And so, what I would just say to you is, stop worrying about what you have compared to what white folks have. I think that's really important. I know some of you may not. There may be people here who are white, and I don't have anything against white people. I always have to make that point because people get scared when I talk like this. But one of the things that intimidates us from starting something of our own is that we compare what we have now to what somebody has been building for 100 years. That's one thing. That's a lack of vision. That's a lack of economic consciousness. Because how the hell are you going to compare something that you started 2 years ago to an institution, this $100 billion company that's been going since 1887? You can't compare the two. They have 100 years of expertise and experience and capitalization and everything else. And what happens is that when you don't believe in what you have, you don't invest in the things that you don't believe in. If you have something that you think is worthless, then you're not going to value something that you think has no value. So what then happens is that when we get economically intimidated, we turn around and we go invest all of our energy into further building onto things that already exist, things that we consider to be real. And what I'm saying to you is that based on that image that I just showed you with the Mercedes Benz, what you're building is just as real as whatever they've already built. It's just as real. Now, does it mean that you're going to have a Mercedes kind of institution in 100 years? No, it doesn't mean that. There's thousands of businesses that got started at that time that didn't survive. But if millions of us are starting from a foundational level to develop these institutions right now, as raggedy as they may seem at the time, and all of us stick to our guns and building for self and building that capital base, building that legacy, whatever it is you're trying to build, some of us are going to crack through. Some of us are going to break through. And you're going to have some company that is struggling right now that in 100 years is going to be this multi-billion-dollar entity. Remember, Mercedes didn't become the Mercedes that we know today. It didn't become that just last year. Mercedes has been a significant brand for at least 70 years, right? You could go back, what's this, 2024? You could go back to 1954. And if you drove a Mercedes in 1954, 70 years ago, you were a baller. I'd be willing to bet you can go back to the 30s. So it's not like it took all those generations for Mercedes to become Mercedes. Mercedes was Mercedes many, many, many years ago, and now they're doing these things that the original founders could never have envisioned. They never could have dreamed of doing what they're doing now. They just signed Lewis Hamilton, the best Formula One driver on earth, to $100 million a year to drive the Mercedes car. I think he drives for Mercedes. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. I think he just switched teams to go drive for Mercedes, right? So these are the things that are happening now that their ancestors and forefathers never could have envisioned. So generally speaking, what our job is in this generation is to lay out the initial infrastructure. Our job is to lay out just enough of a vision that somebody can build on top of that. Right? Our job is to lay out the blueprint. Right? You remember Mercedes or Daimler or Benz or Carl Benz or whoever these founders were, all they did was they kind of laid out a framework. They said, look, we make cars. In this particular day and age, this little ugly tricycle that we just built with a motor on it, that's cutting edge, that's new. It's a little dangerous, a little raggedy, but one day with innovation, we're going to be able to create these other things that are going to be able to do stuff that this car can't do with air condition and bucket seats or whatever the hell cars have, right? And so we're going to just get things going so you'll have something that is worth pouring into, right? We're going to kind of have an entity here. We're going to create some sort of infrastructure here so that when you come into this world, you'll have a purpose, you'll have a vision, you'll have something that you can pour your energy into. And I guarantee you that the children of the people that started Mercedes did not give up their family vision to go work for other people. They didn't throw away the family business so they could go out and go serve some other business that's far more established. They didn't do what y'all do, what we do. Like if you go to Baltimore or a lot of major cities, I went on a tour of Baltimore, and I remember there was a guy who showed me a place where he said there were all these black-owned businesses here in the 1950s. There were a bunch of them, and I said, "Well, this looks like the hood. What happened?" He said, "Well, the kids didn't want to go and work on their family business. They wanted to go work for corporate America. They wanted to go get jobs, and you don't own that job." There's nothing on that job that you own. You don't even own the desk, the table. You say, "That's my desk." No, that ain't your desk. That's your boss's desk. That is not your desk. That is not your table. That is not your chair. That is not your coffee maker. None of that is yours. None of that can be passed on to anybody. And so what he said happened was that a lot of these businesses died because the kids didn't want them. The kids compared. They said, "Well, Daddy dedicated his whole life to this business, and it's nice, but it's a lot of work, and it ain't as nice as me going to work for Microsoft, or I can't brag about it like I could when I go work for Nike." But Nike only exists because somebody poured into Nike when Nike wasn't Nike. There was a time where Nike, right before they signed Michael Jordan and made these big bets on the company, Nike shoes. Does anybody know the origin story of Nike? They made their first pair of Nikes with a freaking waffle iron. They made the first pair of Nikes with a waffle iron. Talk about raggedy. That's as ghetto as you get. Sneakers with a waffle iron? Are you serious? That's where Nike came from. So some of y'all right now feel a little bit raggedy with your business because you're making sneakers with a waffle iron. That's what you're doing. You trying to step it together with duct tape and glue and scotch tape, whatever you're doing, whatever you can, gorilla glue. That's what you're doing, is gorilla glue to hold your little business together. But I'm just telling you that you gotta hold the line. Somebody has to hold the line. Somebody's got to believe in the vision that cannot be seen. Somebody's got to say, "You know what? Yeah, this is raggedy right now. Yeah, we hold it together with scotch tape and Elmer's glue. But one day this is gonna be something powerful and real, and it's gonna be real because I'm gonna make it real." It goes back to the basic ideas that you learn in church called things like faith. Things like faith. When they asked Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, they said, "Tinkerbell, do fairies exist?" And she said, "They exist if you believe that they exist. They exist if you believe that they exist." So if you ask me, "Dr. Boyce, is my business going to be something great?" I say, "Well, it's going to be great if you believe it's going to be great. At the very least, that belief is a requirement, because if you don't believe it's going to be great, then it won't be great because you won't pour into it, which makes it what therapists and psychologists refer to as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes nothing because you believe that it's nothing. And who pours into nothing? Who invests in nothing? And so the brainwashing we got to overcome is this insatiable belief and worship that you have of white people, to the point where you will invest in what they got going on because you believe that what they have is real and what you have is fake. That's what seriously. And you get it from people around you. You have people around you that say, "Well, how's that little business going? Oh, you got that little business. Well, I got me a nice job." And I'm sitting there. Do you know how many people? I literally get so mad. I want to slap my mama. I wouldn't slap my mama, but I get so I love my mama, right? But really, I literally want to just slap the closest person to me when I talk to people. When I see how many people I know that are super talented, super capable, but have no confidence, and they call me and tell me about this great job they got, and I'm sitting here thinking, you could be making millions of dollars by running your own business. You literally could be doing amazing things, but you don't even see what I see in you. You don't understand. I've been around the millionaires and the multi-million, even a couple billionaires, the entrepreneurs that built multi-million dollar companies. And sometimes I'll see people I can think of one person in particular that I know where I see her and I'm like, I try to tell her, I'm like, you do understand you're just as capable as some of the really successful people that I know. The problem is you just don't see it. You don't see it. So because you don't see it and you don't believe in it, then whenever something goes wrong or whenever things get hard, you turn to your fallback, which is to go get a job. That's what you do. And then your job becomes your dream killer because that boss that's paying you peanuts he's not gonna let you work on this business with most of your time. You're gonna be in that office 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And I don't know anybody. It's very difficult to go and give 8, 9, 10 hours a day to one thing and then have enough energy left over to truly pour into something else. It's almost impossible to do. It's like when people ask me, hey doctor, do you have a side chick instead of your wife? Did you ever cheat on your wife? I'm like, I just tell my wife, I'm like, look at how much time I spend with you. I spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day with you. We work together in the basement together every day. I ain't got time to have no other woman. I'm with you all the time. How the hell I got time to go and spend time somewhere else? So anyway, my point is to say that that's what happens. You get to the point where when they hire you, they marry you, they suck you in. They pull you in and they pull in you and your labor and your energy and your skill and everything outside of that pretty much becomes this sort of extracurricular activity. And so the amount of energy, the critical mass of energy that you need to really engage in the spiritual explosion required to create something where there was nothing there, that energy does not exist because all your energy is spent pouring into the Death Star of a corporation that you're working for. You don't understand. Most people that build something amazing have a long string of really incredible stories to tell about how it took every ounce of energy and creativity they could muster in order to keep the business alive. Sam Walton can tell a story about how he got to the point where Walmart needed to raise $1.5 million in 24 hours or they would have to go bankrupt. And in this story, he talks about how he had to fly. He had a little airplane because he started making a little bit of money, but Walmart was still very small. He got on his plane. He had a pilot's license. I got a pilot's license too. It's kind of cool. I thought that was cool. He got in his little airplane. He flew to Texas to go meet with the bank because he said, I need this money today. The bank said, no, no, Sam, we can't loan you this money. This Walmart thing isn't really working out. You're losing too much money. We can't put our money into a failing business. So Sam gets on the plane the same day, flies to New Orleans to meet with his other friend at another bank, and that's where he got the money. Now, do you think that a man with a full-time job at the post office or working for Microsoft or working for Apple, do you think a person with a full-time job has the energy and the time to go all the way to Texas to get the funding they need and then the same day go all the way to New Orleans? No. They don't have that. They can't do that. So what I'm saying to you is that a lot of the passion that's required to really build these institutions that we're seeking to build, the empire building energy that's required, where it becomes more than just what you know, or it becomes more than just working hard. It literally is like a spiritual journey where you literally have to muster everything you can, like you're forced to grow. Like that level of energy can't really be mustered if you're using your energy for other stuff. See, it's like if you take a laser is energy, right? If that energy is concentrated, it's strong enough to go through a rock, right? You can build lasers that can literally go through rock. But if you take that energy and you spread that energy out and it's dispersed and distracted, that laser has no power. Nothing significant really gets done. So a lot of times we don't get to build the things that are supposed to be created because our energy is distracted. The energy is distracted because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself because you were taught from the time you were born that you're not the innovators, you're not the creators, you're not the ones who are supposed to build and develop. You're supposed to go simply get behind the people that do. You're supposed to bow to their legacy because who in the hell can sit up here and stand toe to toe with a Microsoft and say, "Oh, I can do what Microsoft does." Well, I tell you, don't do that. Don't stand toe to toe with a Microsoft and compare your business to a Microsoft because you're going to feel small. Compare your business to what Microsoft was when Bill Gates was working out of his garage. Steve Jobs working out of his garage. That's what you compare your business to. And then when I do that, I'm like, oh, I'm doing pretty good because I'm not working out of my garage. I'm working out of my basement, right? And it's a nice basement though. It's a nice little man cave. We invested some money and got it, tricked out, and I got the big screen TV in the other room so I can watch football. And I got a bedroom so we can take naps when necessary. My wife's office is next door, so I can go over and give her kisses in between all the work that we're doing, and we're grinding it out. So not only is it a lot of fun to build something that's yours, you get a lot of pride from that, and you also get a lot of possibility from that. There's no possibility that really comes out of dedicating your life to building things for other people. And I'm not saying that you should never work for other people. Sometimes I still work for other people. Like Lamar Tyler hired me to come in and give a speech. I said, okay, I work for you today. I don't have a problem working for other people periodically. That's fine. So don't think that being the boss means you always have to be the boss, but you have to own something that's yours. That's what I'm saying. You have to have something that is absolutely yours. You cannot spend your life as an economic babysitter. One of the things that I believe that our people have been trained on since birth, or since slavery really, is to be babysitters for white folks. We are not just babysitters for their children, we're economic babysitters for their businesses. We come in and we man the fort, we hold it down, and then all the profits end up going to them. And this is where, thank you, Angel Maria, this is where the POISE model comes into play. If you know, in our Black Business School for Children, we're all about educating the whole family, not just the adults. I believe financial intelligence should be something that a child gets as early as they learn how to play basketball, play football, go to cheerleading camp, all these other things our kids are doing. Those things don't make money. This makes money. If your child becomes an economic champion at an early age, he will never be a dad who struggles to pay the bills. She will never be a mom who has to go and do horrible things in order to get money. Get an OnlyFans account or something like that. They'll never be in a situation where they're economically desperate because you will be giving them the tools at an early age. So the POISE model, what does that stand for? Producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. Producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. Producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. If your child memorizes this, pay them $10 to memorize this. It'll be the best $10 investment you ever made. And then when they memorize it, talk to them about that. Talk to them. What is a producer? What is a producer versus a consumer? Why do producers have the most money? Well, it's because they're selling stuff, right? And they're getting money in exchange for goods, right? Why does an owner have more power than the person who rents? Well, because if you own the property and somebody's paying you rent, then the landlord gets wealthy and the renter gets depleted. So the renter is lifting the landlord up. The renter is holding up the landlord's legacy financially. The renter is literally engaging in the highly irrational act of securing another person's legacy before they secure their own. That is a blatant violation of the rules of basic economic self-esteem. It does not mean that you should not pour into others, but if you pour into others before you pour into yourself, and you do this consistently, then you will be drained. They will be full. You will be drained. You are serving them and you're not even serving yourself. That doesn't make any sense. That's not logical. But it only becomes somewhat logical if you logically look at the systematic thinking that we're trained on when we're born. Like what happens in our public schools? How are we educated? Who educates us? Right? When you look at that, then it all makes sense. Right? So to some extent, to use the word slavery to describe some elements of capitalism is not completely inaccurate. Debt can be a form of slavery. Well, because what is slavery? Slavery is a lack of freedom. Slavery is when you can't do what you want to do. Slavery is when somebody tells you what to do, when they're your boss and they say, do this. And slavery doesn't mean you don't get paid. So in America, we have millions and millions of paid slaves. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? I'm talking fast because I'm excited, but do you get what I'm saying? We have millions of paid slaves in our society, and they have to go to work because they've got the debt or they've got the bills and all this other stuff. So if you free the kids from the debt and from the bills, then you're giving them actual freedom. That's what freedom looks like in America. It does not look like a civil rights march. It does not look like just praying to Jesus to make it better. No, freedom is when you have enough financial security to do what you want to do. There's two elements of financial strength that you should write down and remember this. One is financial security that comes with having a capital base. That protects you in a rainy day and also gives you the ability to take advantage of opportunities. The other is what they call liquidity. That's cash flow. Where's the cash flow coming from? Because the cash flow is what helps you pay your bills or your short-term expenses. So when you have a capital base and you have cash flow, you then have secured a solid financial infrastructure because you're handling the long-term needs through the wealth and you're handling the short-term needs with the cash. This is how businesses are measured in terms of which businesses are more valuable than others, which companies are doing well, which ones are not. They say, well, what is their capital base look like? What assets do they have? What equity do they have? And then they say, what does their cash flow look like? Let's calculate the company's cash flow. And all the financial valuation models look at those two factors to determine the value of a company. So generally speaking, if you have no cash flow or it's not secure cash flow, then you're economically vulnerable. If you have no capital base, then you're definitely economically vulnerable because someone else is going to have to supply that for you. Okay. So anyway, so have your kids memorize that acronym POISE. POISE, producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. If they go into the economic game thinking that way, they're going to be light years ahead of everyone else. In fact, if you did that one time and you never do anything else for them for the rest of their life, I believe that this gives them a 70-80% chance of having a far higher economic outcome than most other kids. They're going to be ahead of 90% of all children because our kids don't even get introduced to concepts like this until they're 30, if at all, if at all. Okay. All right. So anyway, one of the things so don't forget, guys, I'm going to go ahead and finish up in a minute. Don't forget, we have the Stock Options Summit in Los Angeles. That's going to be April 19th. Actually, for 24 hours, you can actually get half off your tickets. They're doing the early bird special right now. So I'm putting the link to the Stock Options Summit in the chat. If you want to join us in Los Angeles, feel free to take advantage of that. This is a good time to get your passes because they're half off. And second of all, what else is going on? Thank you very much also for filling out the survey. I appreciate that. That's going to help us a lot in our data, and I am going to take everything very seriously that I see. And then lastly, as we go through the book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I want to invite you to either get a copy of the book if you haven't done that yet. There's also a study guide and there's also flashcards for kids. So if you want your kids to be introduced to the concepts from this book, the flashcards, there's a discounted price right there in that link. And so, and then in addition to that, if you haven't done this yet, text the word morning to 87948, and I'll send you guys a link when we meet again. We're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to meet every single day, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to go through our consciousness training. So tomorrow, I know that last time I said I was going to go to the slides, but today I just got into it. Sometimes I get the Holy Ghost and stuff hits me, and I hope that's okay. But tomorrow I'm going to try my best to get back to the slides. But then again, who knows? Maybe something else will happen. But I hope that these discussions are beneficial to you. And Denise says, I learned a lot from Sherry Mitchell. Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, Sherry did she did the origins of anti-blackness. She was a guest lecturer for the Black Business School, and I appreciate her doing that. She did a great job. And next week we got a few other things happening. I don't remember everything. So just make sure you text the word morning to 87948, and I'll keep you guys posted on what we have going on in the Black Business School. My hope and my goal is to get you to engage in your economics every single day so that it just becomes natural to you. What we're doing is we're forming new habits. What we're doing is we're really brainwashing ourselves. I want you to brainwash yourself to be an economic champion. That's what I do. That's what I know. That's what I know. And let me just give you the background on this. And this really started in about 1998, 99. It was the worst year of my life, and I was having a really hard time. A lot of bad things are going on in my life. And I remember just, understanding how we're just sort of controlled psychologically. And I remember saying the only way I can really be successful and overcome all this stuff is I got to learn how to love myself. And I have to remind myself to love myself. And I have to remind myself to believe in my power because I don't think that there's a lot of things happening in the world that reaffirms that. Right. Because remember, I wasn't known by anybody at that time. I was just this little clumsy grad student trying to figure out a way to get through my program. And I just remember studying things like the subconscious mind and ways to really get your mind on point, like Neo in the Matrix. Remember Larry Fishburne told him, he said, don't think that you're faster than me. You need to know that you're faster than me. And that knowing as opposed to thinking is something that you practice. So I would encourage you every day, whatever it is you want to be great at, get in that habit every single day of practicing mentally being great at that thing, feeding yourself positive words, getting around people that are going to help to reaffirm that. All these things will push you in the right direction mentally. That'll get you to where you want to get to. Okay. And then also in the meantime, you may want to get together with some people you love and just have economic conversations. Just get together once a week on a Zoom and just say, let's just talk for a little bit. Let's talk about economics and let's connect. Let's love each other, but at the same time, let's talk about how we're going to make some things happen. Because I can tell you that'll be the best street gang you'll ever join, is to have some people that you love that also are on the same page with you, that have similar goals and dreams, and it makes the journey not just rewarding, but it makes it a lot of fun. So you don't just have fun at the destination, you have fun in the journey, and that to me is a better journey than simply being, us following around other people and supporting what they're doing. No, I want us to support what we're doing because we're special too. All right. So in fact, I think we are the chosen people, but then again, that's my bias. All right. So let's see here. All right. So is the recording available? The one about how Europe needed Africa? Yeah. Well, you know what? If you want the recordings of everything we've done here, that's that. Now that part's not free. Now the live trainings, if you come live, then there's no fee attached to that. But the recordings and everything else, that does have a fee. It's not very much. I'll give you guys a link if you want to go take a look at that. Everything that we do is recorded and saved there. So there is the URL is drboycedaily.com, but there's a link if you guys want to go take a look at that. And then also on Wednesday nights we do Powernomics training, and that's where we did the discussion about how Europe needed Africa. That I don't know. I think it's drboycebookclub.com. Drboycebookclub.com is where you can get all the recordings of every single one of the Powernomics trainings we've done. We've probably done about, I'm going to guess by now, I'm probably about 200 of those, right? So feel free to go take a look at drboycebookclub.com. And also on Wednesday, we're going to do a Powernomics training. So if you want to join us, just text the word greatness to 87948, and I'll send you a link to join us for Powernomics training. So text greatness to 87948. That's the text number. And then I'll give you different text words to get access to different things we have going on in the Black Business School. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. I have a long drive to get home. Thank you so much for hanging out. Bless you. Angel Maria, I see you said you're coming on Wednesday night. Yeah, don't just come. Bring your family. Bring your family to this. If you see value here, the best gift you can give to people you love is economic intelligence and possibility and hope. And it's not false hope. It's real hope that just if you follow it with a little bit of action, it leads to real results. So bring your cousin, bring everybody. This is what we need to be doing as a people. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you, and happy Saturday. And